Good evening, everyone. This is Sandy Cohen, and I am so excited about our very, very special guest this evening, 200K Carolyn Johnson. And Carolyn came into XANGO just a little bit after I did, and a very similar background in that she was in a traditional business, and in March of 2003 was over $100,000 in debt because of a major event that happened in that business. And her good cousin, who thought so much of her, Bob Schmidt, called her to tell her about XANGO. Now, you have to understand that Carolyn is what I refer to as a virgin in network marketing, meaning she has never done this before and has achieved incredible results. And she really credits her success by being mentored by two of the greats, Bob Schmidt as well as Sherman Unkefer. Carolyn is not only a 200K select, she's also a member of XANGO's prestigious $1 Million Club. She's also featured in the book Millionaire Women by MGL Mulvaney. And she really, really is passionate and feels so blessed that she's in a position now where she can give back and, most importantly, help others to grow and achieve their financial dreams. She's building an organization literally around the world. And what is so special is that she's actually doing it with all her loved ones and her family as well, living the dream. So without further ado, Carolyn, let me turn over this evening's call to you and your message that I think is so appropriate at this time as we're coming into summer of the year 2012. Over to you, dear.
Thanks, Sandy. I really appreciate your asking me to join you tonight. It's always an honor to get to share a little bit of what I've learned over the years with people. And when we talked about the topic for tonight, I really had to think long and hard about it because the world is in such a different place today than it was when I started a little over 9 years ago. And we have to look at things. We have to look at our business. We have to look at the people that we're talking to. We have to look at our organizations different. And share a little bit about what I mean by different. When Bob first approached me to join him in a network marketing organization, it was way back in 1970. I hate to admit that, but it was. And I turned him down. And I didn't turn him down because of the industry, because I actually didn't understand the industry. I turned him down because, like most people, I had been raised to go get a good job and make somebody else healthy and wealthy and get my salary and be happy. And that's what I knew, and I loved it, and I enjoyed what I did. And then, as you said, Sandy, I went off and did my own thing and ended up finding myself in debt. And at that point in time, I reunited with Bob, and we got very close. And after about 3 years, he invited me to take a look at this new business opportunity that he was getting into, and that was XANGO. And I think that, we all are in different seasons of our lives, and sometimes we see opportunities, or we don't really see the opportunities. The opportunities come our way, but we don't actually see them as opportunities at those particular times because our minds aren't open. I was dead broke. I was 58 years old. I was living in somebody else's little 2-bedroom condo. I'd given away all my furniture. I had put a 12-year plan together, and it was a pretty humbling place to be, and a lot of people know my story, so I don't want to go there. But I think the key thing is that I didn't get into this business. I didn't because of the product. I got into the business because I trusted my cousin. Because my cousin was a multimillionaire. He'd been in the industry for over 30 years, been extremely successful, and he wasn't inviting me to join him into business because he needed to make $5 a month off him. He was inviting me to join him in business because he knew it could change my life. He knew the end result. If I would be coachable, consistent, and not quit, he knew it, and I trusted that. because I believed that if my cousin could do it, that I too could do it. I grew up with him. We scrapped together. We played games together. We competed in everything we did. And I knew that if my cousin could do something and be successful, that I could be successful too. However, I also knew that he had 30 years experience on me, and that there was no way that I could expect to have the success that he had had in 6 months or a year or 2 years or even 3 or 4 years, because that's not the way it is in business. So I did have the good fortune of his mentoring for those years. But the first thing that I realized when I got into business was, if I didn't understand the business, if I didn't understand why it was different, or if it was different than anything else I'd ever done, I couldn't help anybody else. So that was my first goal, and this is what I learned, and I'm going to share this because I think one of the biggest problems that we have as new distributors or young distributors is defending our industry. How often we hear the words, "I don't buy anything from MLM companies." And people don't know how to answer that many times. Or the big one is, well, the problem is that network marketing companies just inflate their prices so they can pay you. And if they didn't inflate their prices, we could get the products cheaper. So let me just walk you quickly through that and tell you the myth behind that. There's 4 reasons that any company can enjoy success. Now, a company can exist if only 2 or 3 of these things are in place, but they will never, ever have the success that can be enjoyed if they don't have all 4 in place consistently. And that first one is ownership of the company. And I'm not going to get tonight into our ownership. The person that invited you on the phone can share that with you. I want to get to the crux of understanding our industry. So the first issue is our ownership. You know, as Bob said, he met somebody that owned a company that had a bigger vision than he did, and that's what excited him. So what's your company's vision? Where do they plan to be in 20 years? Where have they been the last 20 years? What have they accomplished? What is their experience level? What ability do they have to run this kind of a business? A lot of people with money can open a business. Doesn't mean they can run it. I see that all the time. The second thing a company has to have is capital. One of the biggest reasons that companies fail every single year is they get into the business on a shoestring, they cash in everything they have, they sell their firstborn, and they don't have enough money sitting aside to get them through those lean years, 2 to 3 years, until they've got a solid foundation. So they're spending every penny that comes into their business on everything but their business. Our company was debt-free in 8 months and has remained debt-free for the last 9.5 years. That's substantial when you consider that we're a multi-billion-dollar company. And the third thing a company has to have is a product or a service. Any company has to have a product or a service that people want and need. You know, the hula hoop was great for a few years, but you certainly couldn't run a business off of it today. You couldn't run a business off the pet rock. If you don't have a product or a service that people want and need, you really have nothing but maybe a fad, which is temporary. So we have products that not only people want because they're into preventative in their lives, but many need because of the medicinal benefits that it gives them, for their health issues. Not everybody, but many. So, and our products are not market specific. We don't market to children, we don't market to men, we don't market to women, we don't market to dogs. Our product is market wide, which means that regardless of age, gender, or even animal, we have products that benefit. That's huge. It's not like, I think Sandy used to sell, I don't remember, somebody talked about having sold water heaters. Pretty limited market. Not a product people need every month or every year. So we have highly consumable products, highly effective products, and that's significant, and they're category creating. And the last thing a company has to have is a marketing program. I spent my life in advertising and marketing. one of my jobs with my clients was to find out what their goals were. What are your visions? What are your long-term plans? Where do you want your products to go? Who do they go to? What's your market? Where do you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? So my job was to create an advertising program for my client and put it in the right media, television, radio, newspaper, magazines, coupons, mailings, didn't make any difference. And it was my responsibility to see that that media moved the product into the consumer's hands. So it's very important to be on the right station, the right time of day, the right day of the week. And if it wasn't, it was my job to change that. So traditionally, we move product through traditional media. Nobody challenges that. Nobody challenges that new drug product that comes on TV. They're just busy on the phone calling their doctor because they did actually have, a sprain or a pain in their left leg one time, and so they must need this product. So people don't challenge those things. Well, the greatest compliment that any company can have is to grow through word of mouth. Any company's number one objective is to get so good at what they have to offer, whether it be a product or a service, is that people are referring them to them. And that's what we do. Instead of being an ad agent for a client and placing them on TV, I'm paid as an ad agent to share our products, educate people on our products, and educate people on our business opportunity. That's my job. That's what XANGO pays me for. And so when I understood that there was no difference between XANGO or any network marketing company, when I understood that there was no difference between the different businesses in any way, that they had to have leadership, capital, and a product or a service, and I learned to understand the only difference that we have in our business versus anybody else's is how we get our product in the end consumer's hands or get people to build a business. So when you talk about, wow, if your products weren't inflated so much and paying you, we get our products cheaper, that is absolutely not true, because a company will take 30 to 60% of their gross annual income and pour it back into marketing. And I always like to use the example of McDonald's. Doesn't make any difference whether we like McDonald's or we don't. McDonald's is the number one fast food company in the world because they have made a study on their markets. And no matter what anybody else does, they remain in number one position. It is now a statistic that one of the first 12 words out of a children's mouth has some reference to Big Mac, whether it be the Arches or whatever. I always tell people, whether you give your kids Big Macs or not, put them in their car seat and drive them by McDonald's, and you'll find out for yourself. They have a powerful message, and they have done a powerful job of changing with the marketplace. Another analogy, let's take our analogy. When I bought this home, I looked for a little dining room set for my little coffee area, and I wanted something different. I didn't want to see something that you could see in any furniture store. So I shopped and shopped and shopped and found this little set online through a company called Horchow. Don't know if any of you have ever shopped online. I'm sure a lot of you have. And I had this little set delivered to my house, and about a year ago or 2 years ago, I happened to be walking through a Neiman Marcus, and there was my dining room set. And I thought, wow, it's the first time I've ever seen it anywhere. So I mentioned it to the gal, and she goes, oh, well, which store did you buy it from? I said, well, I didn't buy it at a store. I bought it online with a company called Horchow. And she kind of laughed. She goes, oh, Neiman Marcus owns Horchow. Now think about this for just a minute. One Neiman Marcus, one day of the week, several hundred employees, can't imagine their astronomical electrical bills, especially if they're in Arizona, or maybe in Minnesota in the winter, their overhead, their unemployment, their medical insurance, all those things that they have to pay for their employees and their overhead is there whether they sell one table or none. Now visualize a huge big warehouse with rows and rows and rows of shelves with big huge cartons all over them, all up and down the rows. And here comes Carolyn Johnson. She goes online. She gives them her credit card, and it specifically says 4 to 6 weeks for delivery, not because it's going to take them 4 to 6 weeks to pull that table off the shelf, but because they're going to make sure my credit card goes through, just like XANGO does. And when that credit card has gone through, a guy gets on his little forklift, drives down through the aisle, lifts that big crate off the shelf, takes it out to the dock, and it gets loaded up on UPS or whoever's going to deliver it, and it gets shipped to my house. Now take just 5 seconds and think about where the greatest profit is. Is it through Neiman Marcus, or is it through Horchow, who has nothing but catalogs that come out a couple times a year and a website, versus a Neiman Marcus that has humongous advertising, millions and millions every year? Where's your greatest profit? Well, in network marketing, an organization makes a decision that they're going to take those advertising dollars that they would be paying for the overhead, for the retailer, for the regional sales rep, the local sales rep, and all those advertising things that they're going to do. And those dollars instead are given to network marketing distributors like Sandy and Collie and Grace and Barbara and Betty and Judy and John and me. That's the only difference. There's no difference on how we run our business. It's how we get our product to the end consumer that's important. If you had a bottle of juice sitting on a shelf for $35 and you walked into that health food store and said, "Oh, what's this?" what do you think that clerk making $10 an hour would tell you? "Well, I don't know. It's a new product. I don't know. The boss just brought it." "Well, what does it do?" "I don't know. It's supposed to be good for you, though." "Well, how do you use it?" "Well, I don't know." And you took this bottle of juice home for $35. What are the odds that you'd be back to buy another bottle? However, when you have somebody like Sandy or Collie or Grace sitting down to share this product with you, what are your chances of having success with it? So when I understood that, I realized that there is no difference between what I do today and what I did 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's all the same. Our businesses are all the same. I don't even like to talk about network marketing anymore versus traditional business, because we are traditional business. We're the fastest growing industry in the country. You can read it. Look at the schools that are starting to implement network marketing degrees. To me, that was a momentous moment when I saw the first college institute or initiate a full network marketing degree. That tells us where this industry is headed. And I can tell you in 10 years, 15 years, we aren't going to be pioneers anymore. We're not going to be the people pulling the wagon, pushing the wagon, walking by the wagon, because everybody's going to be doing network marketing. It's a smart way for any business to do business. If you hand a grocery store $100 for groceries, and 5 days later your check gets bounced, they can't come and take those eggs out of your refrigerator. So network marketing is a smart way for a company to have cash flow, to have no billing sitting on their desk with people that don't want to pay or don't pay or pay late or pay if and when they feel like it, or that they have to chase. In network marketing, a company has cash flow. That's why our checks are always on time. That's why our products always are delivered on time. And our company enjoys handing money to distributors that are out there working. So once I understood that, it was much easier for me to get into this industry called network marketing, because it was foreign to me. had nothing against it. It was just foreign. Most people don't ever take time to figure that out, and that's a sad thing. Instead, they stumble when somebody says, well, I'd never buy anything through network marketing. Instead of looking at that person and saying, well, let me ask you a question. Are you thinking that if you buy this bottle of juice in a health food store, that it's going to be better for you than if I have it shipped to you? You think it's going to be a better product? So we need to think about those things. We need to think about the fact, and I tell people, our country has changed. There's a lot different today, and Sandy and I talked a little while ago, not just than it was 3 years ago, 5 years, 8 years ago. It's different than it was a year ago. I sold Yellow Pages and taught people to sell Yellow Pages for years. And our first thing was, nobody's going to buy an ad for you if they don't need it. So unless you find a need, don't even bother calling them. And I feel the same way about what I do today. Not everybody needs to be a network marketer. Not everybody is going to see a need to use our product, although our products are great for anybody. But if we don't find their need, then we're in it for ourselves and not for them, because this is different from the standpoint that I'm not working for myself anymore. I work for others. And that's a hard concept. It's a hard concept to look at ourselves as business owners and not workers. I listened to Robert Kiyosaki a couple months ago on a seminar, and he just said, the sad thing is that 50 to 60-year-old people that are unemployed are sitting on their couches waiting for the factories to reopen. And that's not going to happen. They're gone, and they're not coming back. California is created of about 90% small business owners, anywhere from 2 to 5 to 10 employees. I talked to a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me how, 20 years ago, they didn't have a housekeeper, a gardener, a pool man, or all the services that we use today, personal trainers. Today we have services that none of us had 20 years ago. Many times we have those services because our time is more valuable doing work than it is to be out mowing our yards. So consequently, people have found their niche by starting little yard services, gardening services, pool services, housekeeping services, personal assistant services, life coach services, all these things that were not considered norm 20 years ago are almost like, well, what do you mean you don't have a housekeeper? I mean, it's just a different world today than it was 20 years ago. But there's also a difference in people's attitudes today than there was 20, 30 years ago. We become very complacent. We have become very, I've got 16 weeks of unemployment left, and I don't want to ruin that. So I don't want to start anything. Or I don't know how the election is going to go this year, so I don't want to start anything. And I don't know if my boss is going to start bringing people back on his construction site, so I don't want to start anything. I'm just going to sit here and wait. And I'm going to let somebody else pull me in that wagon. I'm just going to sit in this wagon and wait for somebody to take care of me. But they're not coming to take care of you. And until you get out of the wagon, you're not going to take care of you either. I'm going to give you a couple of statistics and then wrap this up. I'm now trying to get the full report, so I don't have it complete. But they say that statistically, the years of a person's life for creating their retirement starts in your early 30s till you're 60. So somewhere around 33, 34, 35 years old until you're 60 is when you are creating the income that you are going to generally live with for the rest of your life. Okay? Those are your prime working years. I also listened to somebody the other day talk about the fact that it used to be that until you were 40, you couldn't even think about getting a decent job or a raise because you hadn't had time to prove yourself. Now kids want to be proven by the time they're 22, and if that doesn't happen, they quit. So it's a whole different mindset. I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with that. I'm just saying it's a different mindset. But anyway, statistically, what they're saying is 30 to 60 years old, 35 to 60 years old. Before the recession started, 81% of men and women in those prime working years were employed. 81%. Once the recession hit, that dropped to 75%. 75% of America, that's 6% drop. That's humongous, of men and women in their prime years. Under the current administration, that has gone up less than 1% to almost 76%, which means we're still a good 6% behind where we were 3 to 4 years ago. And a more interesting statistic to me is the fact that men in those prime years of 35 to 60 is smaller than it was in 1948. Now that's a huge statistic. And if we're not thinking this through, we're not understanding what's going on in our country. There's all kinds of articles out. I just read one in Time magazine that talks about the fact that within 10 years, women are going to be the primary breadwinners in the family. And if you start watching what's been going on since 1948, we see that more and more all the time, don't we? That men are becoming, house moms or whatever, or not having the primary job. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a change. But today, people are so afraid to make a decision that they make no decision. So today, if we aren't approaching people and talking about where they are and who they are and what they think and what they fear and what they want and what they don't want and what they like and what they don't like, and learning how to explain our industry to them, we lose. On the other hand, if we learn how to do those things, everybody wins. Because where can you go and be in business for $200 or $300 a month? And where can you go and be in business and own a store? I'm very frustrated at people that try to sell a product that don't even use their own products. I mean, how can you go sell Glimpse if you don't use it? How can you sell juice if you don't drink it? And most of our products, like Glimpse and 365 and Junie and, all of these products, they're all products we use anyway. So if we're not replenishing our bathrooms and our refrigerators and our supplements with our own store, shame on us. If we just used our own products, we wouldn't be spending any more money, but we'd be in business. So many of us can be in business for just using our own products. But if you want to be a leader, if you want to build something substantial, get out of the wagon and start pushing it, pulling it, and walking alongside of it and learning how to be in business. I want to turn it back over to Collie. I know that there's a lot of guests on this call tonight, and I urge you to get with the person that invited you on the call. They're going to have a whole lot of information to offer you. Think about where we're at today. Think about where we're going tomorrow. And think about how we need to approach people to help them and not ourselves. Thank you, Collie.
Carolyn, thank you so much. I always love hearing your message because it is so right on. And I think I was one of those people that you talked about. I call it poverty mentality versus the abundance mentality. When I was younger, I didn't even have a college education, high school education, but I was working, selling life insurance and real estate and anything I could do. I had this dream of spending my whole life buying and selling properties, really buying one property and I'd rent out the previous one, buy another one. I think I was on my 8th house by the time I was 28 years old. And I thought that I was going to do this for 20, 30, 40 years to finally someday be able to sell them all and buy a dream home. And that was my goal. And network marketing came along and really opened up my eyes. But when I first got involved, I had this poverty mentality, this trying to, not understanding the things you talked about is so right on. It's about abundance. It's about buying, using, promoting our own products because they're amazing products, because they're life-changing products, but also because we're buying these products anyway. You're absolutely right. We buy products that we're already using, only they're way better quality, health advantages that are incredible. You're going to find some really neat things that it might be a day, a week, a month, 6 months, 2 years down the road for some people who all of a sudden realize that they've had profound life-changing benefits and experiences with these products, but not just for yourself personally, but all the people that you share them with, and the people they share them with, and the people they share them with. And you know what? We're changing the world. We're changing the world financially. We're taking back a hold of our economic future for ourselves and for those people that we care enough to share it with. So for those of you guests that are on the line who've never really heard this kind of message before, maybe you have, but you're not quite sure what it all means yet, please get back to the person who invited you. Ask them to get you more information. There is a lot of information we can provide on the products. We can provide you information on our compensation plan and how that all works. We can introduce you and tell you the stories of the millionaires, 99 millionaires in 9 years so far created from this amazing company called XANGO. So we invite you to investigate more and to join us on this journey because it's an abundant journey with limitless possibilities. So thank you for joining us here this evening, and we look forward to having you on future webinars. Good night, everyone.